On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at the song Tonight from the 2021 release of West Side Story and comparing that with its 1961 counterpart. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, this request came in asking me to look at the 2021 release because somebody suspected that there was some kind of manipulation going on with the lead vocal or lead vocals. So, we will put it through the pitch monitoring software, have a look and see if it has been edited, and we'll compare it with the original movie release of West Side Story back in 1961. So I am going to be jumping into this quite a lot. If you want to listen to the songs, you can go and watch the movies. Obviously I can't show the movie footage here because that'll be blocked on copyrights, but we'll jump into, first of all, the 2021 version. And I'm going to jump in here already because when I listened to this on my laptop earlier, just the first time through, I could tell instantly that there was something wrong with this lead vocal. And I know that some people can't hear it and some people can hear it. And this is why I think personally that you should try and have a vocal on a song that appeals to everybody rather than just appeals to people that can't hear when something has been manipulated pitch-wise. So anyway, the reason that we have the vocal lines on screen is so that we can compare the vocal on the right-hand side, which is what we just listened to the vocal lines of the original in 1961. And this was before auto-tune, pitch correction, melodyne, whatever you want to refer to the pitch manipulation as. We've got totally different things going on here, and when you're used to hearing it, you can hear this because look at these lines on the screen. We start off bang on the A sharp 3, and the greatest singers in the world, as we know with our analysis videos, don't ever hit lines all the time like this. So as soon as you start hearing it, if you've got a sensitive ear and you can tell that somebody is dead on pitch, I think probably playing guitars and tuning guitars, as I have done for so many years, probably helps a lot, because when you can tune by ear, you know exactly where that note is. So when somebody's hitting notes dead on at 440 Hertz tuning, you know that that is tuned, that it's not a natural voice. So anyway, here on the C4, we are dead on the line, then we're dead on the line, the G sharp 4 dead on the line, here the C5 dead on the line, A sharp 4 we've got vibrato, and this is why it's not auto-tune, because this vibrato here has been allowed to happen. It might have been the case that it was slightly sharp or slightly flat, but it's been moved directly over the A sharp 4. G sharp 4 directly on the line, and I mean down here we have more of a slide into the notes, so we can't really see what's going on. When we compare this to the 1961 version, let's see how many times we are having a note that is on the line. C4, you can see that we've got this line that comes down here. Again, a little bit wild, but you could say, okay, we're over the C4. We are now sharp of the C4, we come below the C4. We go up, we're flat of the D sharp 4. We keep coming up, and we are now in between notes here. We're 8 sharp 4, we are pretty much there, but then ascending because it's a natural voice. These notes aren't being snapped to lines, they are being sung. So they're not being sung in relation to this graph, they are being sung naturally by a human voice. So over on this side we've got a human voice that did sing it naturally, and this is the other thing, that when I'm talking about the singer's voice, I'm not saying that Rachel, and it's Rachel Zegler here on the right hand side, this is her voice, or at least she sang it and then her voice has been manipulated, it's been pitch shifted to hit these notes exactly on. She wouldn't have sung it like this. We're not actually hearing her voice as it was when she recorded it, which is a shame. So Rachel has performed this naturally in the studio, and then it's been calibrated to this tuning and this graph effectively, so we're not hearing her natural delivery. And the reason that I think it stands out so much is because she would have been performing this with the sound of the orchestra in her ears. Now, when we're talking about an orchestra, say that we take the violin section, every single violin will be tuned as accurately as they can get it, but every violinist might be placing their finger, 1 millimeter either way of each other's, which means you get tiny differences between the pitch of each note in a whole violin section. But when you hear it en masse, it sounds in tune because all of these notes that are slightly different are blending together. When you're listening to a great vocalist, their ear is taking in all of these different pitches and it is picking the average, and that's where the voice is placed. So Rachel would have been doing this in the studio, naturally singing the note as she heard it over the top of the orchestra. But what's happening is her vocal is then being taken out of context of the orchestra and applied to this graph, so that all of the notes now are hitting the lines. And now all of these notes are irrelevant to the backing that she was performing to, because that's the point of getting a really full orchestra sound. All of the instruments are ever so slightly off, but the result is loads of microtones, which is when you hit the note ever so slightly off and you put loads of those together, you get a really thick sound, because it's not the same note being played just bang on, it's tiny variations of the same note being replicated by each instrument, but slightly apart. The way that this is being applied, I shouldn't be able to hear it this clearly after one vocal phrase, and the reason that I can hear it so clearly is because I can hear now what we can see on the screen, that it's just too perfect all the time. So it is a shame it's just being applied so heavy-handedly. Another thing to mention is that this is 2021. It's last year. So it's at the cutting edge of auto-tuning, pitch correction. We shouldn't be able to tell. I shouldn't be able to tell. But it's the human that is the mistake in this, because it's being plotted to this graph. The human should make the decision that, okay, I'm going to listen to this with a musician's ear, not looking at a graph, because that's how they're doing this now. They're looking at these lines and just dragging the notes of the vocalist to the lines. You should listen to it first, and if it sounds great, leave it. You don't have to change every single note.
In my words and in everything I do, nothing else but you ever.
And yeah, I could be stopping this all the time, but look at this, the consistency of hitting the G4, hitting the G4, hitting the G4, hitting the G4, even up here where we went to the C5 again, and here the A#4, just sticking to that line. When we compare it to the original, here, flat, and then, this gives you an idea of the consistency of a natural voice, that we were slightly sharp, but pretty good on the G4, and then sharp, and then even sharper, and then sharp. So we're not hitting the notes dead on the G4. You can see how her voice naturally drifts, because it's natural, and it's not being snapped after the fact to the notes on the right hand side. If this was being snapped, it would just start to look like this. These would be identical. So you can start to imagine that if you've got two totally different performances by different vocalists, but you start applying this graph to both of them and snap the vocals to the lines, those two vocals are going to start sounding the same, because the same process has been applied to both of them. And I have a separate video on the channel about why maybe the older generation can't connect with modern day music. It's because all of the modern day music, and the vast majority of it, is being applied to this graph. No matter what the original vocal sounded like, it's then being edited, pitch corrected, so that everybody's voice, regardless of the singer, is starting to look like this, therefore sounding the same, because it's being snapped to this same graph the whole time.
There's nothing for me but Maria. Every sight that I see is Maria.
And you get that nasty sound of pitch correction. It almost sounds like a harmonic within the note, and we had that here on the F4. So, and you can see here the vibrato. I mean, we've got a little bit more freedom here. The important thing to mention here is that it has been applied, I would hope, manually, and that hasn't just been done automatically. It sounds like they've tried to do it manually, but just really heavy-handed. It looks like here, we're just being put straight over the notes, and again, the A#3 just dead on. So it's been applied to the male vocal and the female vocal. I mean, yeah, again, you could hear that we had that little harmonic sound in there of the pitch correction.
Always you, every thought I'll ever know. Everywhere I go, you'll be you and me.
And this is really interesting. Here we got a little bit of the instrument in the background from the orchestra going through in the isolation software, and you can see that it was slightly sharp of the C#5. So when an instrument is less accurate than a vocal, you know something's gone wrong.
Tonight, tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away.
Wow. Okay, right. I mean, that note, the A#4, when you see a straight line over a line, there's no excuse for that, really, in my opinion, production-wise. I don't know whether the directors, I mean, they must just be offloading this to the producers and saying, do what you do, and then they're doing this. I mean, look at these lines. There's no expression in this whatsoever. And I know that some people will listen to this and they can't hear it. I mean, ignorance is bliss in this kind of situation because they can't hear how manufactured this sounds. But I would love to just be able to listen to a song, and especially musicals and movies that have songs in them, where you can appreciate the ability of the vocalist and you don't have to listen to the producer and what he's done to the voice. When we're looking over here, you can see the amount of freedom that we've got in this vibrato, that it was, you know, bang on the note and it came down and then it went back up to the note, because that's where all the expression is. But let's continue.
Tonight, tonight, there's only you tonight. What do you want? What do you do? What you say?
Okay, I'm going to call it a day there. Because, yeah, this is even worse than that first example. Just absolutely dead on the line, no variation, pitch corrected to within an inch of its life. And let me just make it clear that I'm not criticising Rachel and her voice, because I'm sure she's got a great voice. And this is the worst thing about it, is that we're not getting to hear a singer's voice. We're just hearing a plugin that is changing the person's voice.
Only you, you're the only thing I see forever in my eyes.
Again, just to jump in at exactly the same point, look how sharp we are here at the C5 between notes. But did it sound, so bad that you can't listen to it? No, because it's just a human voice.
In my words and in everything I do, nothing else but you ever.
Again, these tiny imperfections here. There's so much variation, it gives it so much more character.
And there's nothing for me but Maria. Every sight that I see is Maria.
Tony.
And just listen to how flat that was at the C4, but then was just allowed to go up to that final place. And, you know, we have got great singers here, so they are going to be in and around lines, but you will never, I guarantee you, we could watch this the whole way through from 1961 and you will never in the whole performance see a line on top of a line. It's just never going to happen with the human voice.
Always you, every thought I'll ever know. Everywhere I go, you'll be you and me.
Again, we were right between notes there, and we just take it back. Have a look at this flat of the A#3. And I'm just going to take that back just to show you that when an instrument comes in, you can see how, you know, back in 1961, they were tuned to 440 hertz, A4, which is standard tuning and concert pitch. So it means that when you hear an instrument, you know, we had a little bit of vibrato, but you can see that it's straight over that line. And this is the problem now, that human voices are being turned into instruments when they're not.
It all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away. Tonight, there's only you tonight.
I mean, you have a little look over to the right-hand side again, and we'll see this kind of thing. I don't even really want to listen to it, but we'll keep on listening to 1961.
What you are, what you do, what you say.
Today, all day, I had the feeling a miracle would happen. I know now I was right. For here you are, and what was just a word is a start tonight.
I am tempted to listen to the whole 1961 version just to prove that you're not going to see a line on a line.
Tonight, the world is full of light.
I think I'm just going to be shaking my head whenever I see this. Just all of this just snapped.
With suns and moons all over the place. Tonight, tonight, the world is wild and bright, going mad, shooting sparks into space. Today, the world was just an address, a place for me to live in, no better than all right. But here you are, and what was just a word is a start tonight.
And there we have it. So, I mean, this was one of those cases that's really easy to spot, that it's been pitch corrected in 2021. The technology has moved on, but the application of the technology hasn't. It's still being applied really heavy-handedly. And I mean, I know that we're looking at it in real detail, and this is really the only way that you guys, if you can't hear it, you'll be able to see. When we just scroll back through all of these places where we are being snapped to lines, you can see that it's been done in the studio. Even voices that are really, really accurate from the last 100 years, they don't do this. They don't just hit a line and stick on a line. So yeah, really easy one to spot. I mean, this video could have just gone on for 2 seconds, me saying, oh, it is pitch corrected, and that's the end of the video. But I want to show you that objectively we can see it's being pitch corrected, because I think a lot of people just say, oh, that's auto-tune, that's pitch corrected. But there's no point in saying that and not proving it or showing you an objective piece of software. This isn't plotting it on the lines because it thinks it's on the lines. It's doing it because it is on the lines. It's an objective piece of equipment. So yeah, this is something that people might say when they listen to something and they say, oh, it's auto-tuned or pitch corrected. Other people will say, no, it's not. That's just your subjective opinion. This isn't subjective. This is objective, which is what I do with all of my videos, and the reason why we have the technology that we can analyze these and we can see that this never happens with the human voice. It hasn't in the last 100 years, or at least it hasn't before the invention of auto-tune and then pitch correction. And it's now all over the place. And we can see, that even up until last year, it's still being used in this way. But a bit of a different one tonight. Always interesting to dive into these ones. Thank you guys for requesting this video for tonight. I hope you did enjoy it. As always, let me know what you guys think. Keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!